Hi, I'm here to talk about the March Beyond the Horizons paper pumpkin. And last month I gave you 3 pieces of DSP and some pieces of cardstock in preparation for this month's kit. So let me get going right now. I put together the the kit pieces, but I did cut the cards apart and I mounted them on regular cardstock. So I took an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of cardstock and scored it at 4 1/4, and then I just cut out the actual card and used the outside for the front, and I used the back piece for the inside of the card. I think it makes a more substantial card. So this is my first card, and for the embellishment I just added the tire tracks here, and I added the tracks on the inside. So that's card number 1. Card number 2, I did the same thing, cut the card apart, and I added the card base. For this one, I just stamped the leaves on the inside and the leaves on the outside of the envelope. Okay, nothing special on this one either. I just bumped up this little top piece. Everything else is glued flat. And then the third card was like this. So I stamped the stamp once and then stamped off a second time without re-inking to get that kind of shadowy look. And I did the same thing on the inside. Stamped it once and then stamped it a second time without re-inking. This one, again, just stamped, bumped up this little top piece. Everything else is glued flat onto the card base. So those are the 3 cards. And now let's look at my alternatives. So for this alternative, I just used the card base. I did not do anything to the card. I actually used the card just as it is. And I used the card base and one of these circular designs and one of the pieces of greenery, and just stamped Thinking of You at the top here. I thought this made a pretty Thinking of You or sympathy card just like that. So we'll be making that one tomorrow. We'll also be making this card, which is again using the same card, using a card base, and I added one of the mountain pieces. And for this one I took one of the larger yellow pieces and I snipped it off and made it into 2 pieces, and then stamped the hello across the top. So that's a quick one that we'll make. The third quick one that we'll make is using this card base, and we'll use one of the like swampy pieces and then one of the blue pieces and the green pieces, glued everything flat, added the 3 rhinestones right here, and stamped a little note. I just thought that was a pretty card. So we'll be making those 3 quick alternatives, and then we'll be adding a little bit more. So for this card, we'll be using one of the card bases that I provided you, and I am using one of the card bases here. Is this a card base, or this might be a piece of the, no, this is a card base, and I cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5 and glued it flat, and then the back side I used for the inside. I added 2 of the pieces of rectangle pieces, and then one of the sentiment pieces right here. Bumped it up on dimensionals, and just a pretty simple card. For this card, I went ahead and I did use one of the pieces of DSP that I provided for you, and I cut it 5 1/4 by 4 and added one of the sentiment pieces. I stamped the tracks like at the top and the bottom here, and then stamped the hello. So a very simple card, but I think effective and very pretty. The next card I have done for you is a little more detailed, but a lot of fun. For this card, you can actually make 2 in 1. You can make one this way, and then you can make another one the opposite way, and I'll be doing that on Friday. But I took one of the card fronts, cut it down, and I cut one of the envelopes open and used it. I used a piece of white cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4. I turned over one of the green pieces of willowy, swampy pieces and glued it flat. I stamped right on the cardstock, "I will always be there for you." And then I wrapped the ribbon and tied a bow. On the inside, I glued a piece of white cardstock. You don't have to, but I did. And then I used one of the blue pieces at the bottom for a little accent. So I think that makes a very pretty card. The next card I did was I took all 3 of the envelopes, and I opened one of all 3 of the envelopes, and then I cut them into 1/2-inch strips. So these are all 1/2-inch strips, and I have a bunch more to make some more. And I used the white card base, folded it in half. Then I took a piece of the dark blue cardstock and cut it to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I took just a piece of random paper for behind here, and I cut it at 3 1/4 by 5. So that can be an old card base, it can be a card that you made a mistake on, it can be any color, because you're just going to glue the strips right on that piece. So you glue the strips right on that piece, and then you trim it down, then glue it flat. I took the alternate stamp set and stamped it off twice, so I'll show you how to do that. Then I fussy cut around it, didn't take much time, stamped the leaves and added the Celebrate on the back side of one of those sentiment pieces, and I think that just makes a really cute card, and I'm looking forward to making more of these stripy ones. So that's that card. And then the last card we're going to make tomorrow is a simple card that I used a piece of the DSP and cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, glued it flat onto the card base, and you could use any color of the card bases that I provided or one of your own. Then I used one of the, what are these, Calypso coral pieces and bumped it up. I glued one of the white pieces on it, and I did use Razzleberry for the thanks on here, but you could easily use the Misty Moonlight or any color that you would like, and makes a nice clean card. Added a couple of 3 little embellishments, and there you go. So those are our quick cards that we'll be making tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you at 10 o'clock.